More than half of the IPL 2020 has gone by, and we have witnessed a lot of exciting cricket in it. But there is something that a lot of people have missed, and it is one of the most unique and interesting features that the BCCI introduced into the IPL. Now, this concept is known as the mid-season transfer window, which was first started by the BCCI in the 2019 edition of the IPL. Now, in the last year's tournament, this window basically meant that any uncapped player can be traded between one team to the other during this 5 day window, which happens at the midpoint of the league stage. Now, this year's for the 2020 IPL, this rule was expanded, and not only uncapped players but capped players, including overseas players, can be loaned out from one particular team to the other. Now, this window was supposed to start when all the teams have played 7 games each, which marks the halfway point in the league stage. And it was last night at 10 p.m. the BCCI officially closed the mid transfer window after running it for 5 days. Now, what does the mid transfer window exactly say, and what exactly can happen in it? First of all, any player can be loaned out from one particular team to other if he has played less than 2 matches for that particular franchise. Now, let's take an example to understand this better. If you take the case of Imran Tahir, who has played no matches for Chennai Super Kings, he was eligible to be traded by the CSK side to any other particular teams in the IPL. What would that have meant? Basically, there are many more rules which govern this entire process. Some of those rules are: when a player goes from one team to the other team, he is not allowed to play his parent team in any IPL match. Let's take the example of an Imran Tahir again. If CSK were to loan him out to a Delhi Capitals, and he would start playing for the Delhi Capitals for the rest of the season, if Delhi faced off against Chennai Super Kings in the league stage or in the playoffs or in the finals at any point in this year's tournament, they wouldn't have been allowed to field Imran Tahir in their playing 11. Now, this is a very interesting rule because the player is not essentially being sold to the other franchise. He's just being loaned out. Means he is not leaving the Chennai Super Kings franchise. They will still be his parent company. They are going to another team for whom they will play cricket for the rest of this IPL season. Now, last season, there were no trades that happened in the mid-season transfer window, and this season too, when the transfer window closed last night, there were no trades that had happened, although there were rumors of many players like Imran Tahir, Ajinkya Rahane, Chris Gale and Chris Lynn, who were heavily rumored and linked with a number of other IPL sides to be moving there, but nothing of that sort happened. So, in theory, BCCI's experiment with the mid-season transfer window has kind of failed. But let's look at why teams have not gone ahead and got some of these players into their squad. I think one of the biggest reasons for this to fail in this season was because when you buy a player or when you get a player from some other team, you expect to keep him throughout your IPL tenure, and this is not the case. According to the mid-season transfer window, you're not selling off the player, you're just loaning the player to the side until the end of the season, and the player will come back to you starting at the start of next season. So the teams do not see it as a long-term thing, which is why they did not go and invest in this. Also, one of the fears that the teams have is that when they send one player to another team, he has the liberty to share with that particular team their game plans and the way that they are going to play their cricket, which could affect their strategy and their quality of cricket going into the business end of the tournament. Now, these I think were one of the biggest reasons that nobody was signed in the mid-season transfer window. Also, I think another big reason was the fact that when you get a player, that player cannot play against that parent club, which is absurd rather, because you when you get a player, you get him with the objective of playing him in your playing 11. You get him in the short run, in the short term, to bridge a gap that you have in your particular team. But that whole objective was short when you have these rules in place. Now, the mid-season transfer window of the IPL is in theory similar to the football transfer window, with the only difference being that in football there are not only loan moves which are done, but also permanent deals that were done. So this was BCCI's little experiment into the IPL to do something like this. There is a normal trade window which goes on post the auctions, where we saw players like Ajinkya Rahane being traded from the Rajasthan Royals to the Delhi Capitals, Ashwin from the Punjab side to the Delhi Capitals, and many, many more. So this little experiment has kind of failed, and if the BCCI want to make this a regular feature in the IPL, I think they would want to ideally move the loan rule and introduce something of the likes of the permanent deal as well, where teams can actually think of a long-term prospect rather than just for the short run, for the short run, which is not making sense for a lot of teams right now. They would rather go out in the to the players who have been unsold in the auction and buy them at their base price, which makes more sense for them because they then have those players in for the long term. Anyways, this is one of the things that a lot of people missed, although they've been watching IPL for the entire duration so far with utmost intent. This is one interesting factor. Because no big signing was made, I guess that is why a lot of people missed this happening. But yeah, let's see what happens in the IPL seasons to come, whether this will be a feature, whether teams will be using this as a way to strengthen their squads and build on them. Only time will tell, I guess. Yeah, that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys again tomorrow.